I will always champion video games carving out their own unique niche as an art form, but sometimes I feel like a game's story would be better if they were a movie, as they don't take advantage of their medium. Open world is also my favourite genre of video game, as exploration is one of the most important parts of a game to me. All that being said, if there was one game that should have tried to be as on rails as possible, it would be an Indiana Jones game, and not just because it's based on a movie. Because of what kind of movie Indiana Jones is, a swashbuckling adventure film that's a tightly paced rollercoaster ride from start to finish. See, most action movie franchises are sci-fi or fantasy. As such, an important part of those films is world building, establishing the lore and fictitious setting they've created, so the audience can understand how their world works. Even non-sci-fi and fantasy films, like John Wick, spend a large amount of time establishing how their world operates and how the protagonist fits into it. But 80s action films had no such world building because they were set in our world. The audience already understood how everything worked, allowing them to cut this step out and focus their entire movie on constantly moving the plot forward. Which brings us to The Great Circle and the strange choice to have open world sections that are wholly unnecessary and might even be a detriment to the game. As I established, pacing is extremely important to Indiana Jones, and even more so in this game, because there's a sense of urgency to the main plot. You're racing the Nazis to find the artifacts. Most open world games have a plot without urgency. This encourages the player to take their time and explore the world. In something like Mass Effect 3, from a story perspective, it's psychotic for Shepard to do anything other than the main quest, because the galaxy is literally under attack, bare out of time, and need to hurry. Meanwhile, Skyrim and Breath of the Wild have their villains waiting in the background for you to arrive. There's no need for you to mainline the story. Great Circle is a story full of desperation, because it's an Indiana Jones story, which is why the plot is so authentic and enjoyable, but it clashes with the gameplay. Ironically, the pacing is something Indy's biggest interactive inspiration, Uncharted, has absolutely nailed, able to perfectly transition between masterful set pieces and quiet in between sections. But there are two differences between these quiet moments in these games. The first is how, even when nothing is happening on screen, Uncharted is still fleshing out its characters through dialogue with your companion. Indy spends most of these sections alone, so it's almost impossible to have any character writing. The second is that Uncharted is also pacing these quiet moments, perhaps even too much. If you wait too long to solve a puzzle, the game will flat out tell you the answer, because it doesn't want you to lose the pace of the game. Indiana's open world sections means that the quiet moments can last as long as the player wants, and if said player is an obsessive completionist, this is almost certainly going to negatively affect their experience. Because these open worlds sadly aren't worth exploring, because there's no twist to them. Exploration, or good exploration, is fueled not by collectibles and side quests, but by finding unknown and strange things. This is why fantasy and sci-fi are the most popular open world genres. You can discover things that could never exist. Meanwhile, if an open world game has a realistic setting, there's always a twist. Grand Theft Auto's satirical parody, Watch Dogs' hacking interactables, Like a Dragon's dense side activities. The Great Circle doesn't have any of this, and that's okay. It shouldn't have anything like this, because that wouldn't be true to the spirit of Indiana Jones. He's not the type to meander around when the world is at risk. He'd be all in on saving the world and, more importantly, the girl. But I think the game could have gained a lot more by being as cinematic and scripted as possible, because that's the core essence of the Indiana Jones films, as well as the games that were inspired by it. I'll be back in 2 days. In the meantime, here's a video about why it was so important for Indiana Jones and the Great Circle to be a first-person game.